Mr. Salman Khurshid, thank you very much. Thank you for giving me time and coming on Frankly Speaking.
Delighted as always.
Mr. Khurshid, why is your government buying time with Pakistan? It appears that you have, you've issued some statements of late, but there's no sense of clarity in your statements. It appears that you're buying time. It's a transient phase. You're looking upon what's happening right now as a transient phase. Despite all the provocation that's come from Pakistan, their comment on the MFN status, they took the lead in passing this anti-India resolution. They've had so many infiltration attempts, so much incursions been going on. Hafiz Saeed has not been restrained. No movement on 26/11. Why is your government not more affirmative in its response to Pakistan?
See, let's understand one thing. You cannot forget the past and cannot write a fresh story. There has to be, without being captives of your past,
yes,
you have to factor in the recent past and the distant past into what you want to do. Then you factor in the practical reality of world politics today,
yes,
practical reality of our region, and then you factor in the practical reality and compulsions of domestic politics in Pakistan and domestic politics in our country. I don't think that you can do a sensible, reasonable and an objective analysis of anything between us and them without bringing all these factors in and then keeping as paramount India's national interest. Now, India's national interest, informed by all the things, positive and negative, disappointing and encouraging, that have happened over a period,
yes,
and then we need to take a position. Now, you can't have a position by 9 o'clock in the evening,
yes,
so that the news channels can have it. It's an evolving situation. There are things that we don't like, things that we are not happy with, but there are things that we still hope can happen and things that we feel are good in the long run, even if you look at strictly from our own national interest. And therefore, you don't slam all doors at one go, unless things are such that there is no other option left. And I think despite all the disappointments, I don't think that it would be correct to say that right now.
So you're going to continue to talk to them?
I didn't say we will. I all said that we remained intellectually engaged. Whether that means talk and talk at a particular level, whether it means...
I'm asking you whether talk at a prime ministerial level, whether the Prime Minister will meet the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Would it be
which
fair?
Many people believe will be a wrong signal to send, given what has happened. I mean, that's exactly the point that I'm making to you, Mr. Salman Khurshid. Now that the Pakistan Foreign National Assembly, all political parties, they pass a resolution condemning India. They promise to step up the ante as far as Kashmir is concerned. Why can't you categorically say that you will suspend? I'm not saying forever don't speak to Pakistan. Okay. Why don't you categorically say you will suspend talks with Pakistan? You know, you have said the atmosphere now is not conducive to talks, but why can't you be more straightforward than that, given the response we've had from with them so far?
I am straightforward. They started this game of saying something from the assembly.
Yes.
And I think that there wasn't a very well thought out step that they have taken.
But they've done it.
But so have we. We've responded.
That means nothing.
We've responded. No, we've responded. You don't switch off a relationship that is important for many, many reasons simply because someone has irritated you or has caused an affront to you. But we have a sober, sensible way of putting across to Pakistan that there are certain things that are not good for them, for our relationship, and for the region. And we've said so. Why should we be forced into doing everything that can be done in one day?
Because it proves, Mr. Salman Khurshid, your government's approach to Pakistan, which is simply this, that whenever there is a grave provocation, whenever the people of this country are genuinely angry, whenever they are hurt and have reason to be hurt, you buy time. And that's the critical point I make. You buy time, you wait for this to subside, and once you think it is subsided, then you continue like it never happened. I can give you example after example. You know what the Prime Minister did when he went to Havana. He compared He said that Pakistan is a victim of terrorism. This is 2 months after the July train bombings which had happened. I can give you examples of Sharm el-Sheikh.
Well,
each of those cases prove one point.
Of course we can. But this would amount
We can
to,
what?
Of course we can say anything and give any example. But this amounts to advocacy of a position that you take. If you've taken a position that we want to persuade people that any engagement of Pakistan is unacceptable, you would advocate your cause in a particular manner. If you are what you describe as a peacenik, and the peacenik says, no, it is important that we talk, we will never resolve our differences without conversations, without dialogue, without talks, then you advocate a different cause. Of course you can do advocacy, and there are people in a democracy who would do advocacy.
Mr. Khurshid, why can't you be clear today with me? I'm being so clear with you. I'm asking you the 3 options, Mr. Khurshid, let's say 3. One is you talk at the highest level, which means the Prime Minister of India, irrespective of what has happened, irrespective of the beheadings, irrespective of what's happened on the LOC, irrespective of the infiltration, irrespective of the killing of our soldiers, irrespective of the way the country feels about it, will go ahead and meet Nawaz Sharif in September in New York. Now, our second option is you talk at lower levels and you don't meet in New York at the Prime Minister level. And the third option is you suspend talks. Now, which of these options will
let's
you
go
take?
to the third. Let's go to the third option.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what you mean by suspend talks. If there was a conversation taking place today, and we walked away from it, I could understand that that's suspension. What do you mean by suspension? If there is something that could have happened, might happen 3 months from now, 2 months from now, a month from now, but it isn't happening today.
Which is what?
If there is something, there were water talks to take place, for instance. There are other official level talks that are going on. There are sports exchanges that are happening. There are people-to-people contacts that were happening. Perhaps some have been called off on their own. Perhaps some would need to be called off by intervention of government. But it is not something that's happening today that you can point to and say, you should not be doing that today. All we are saying is, look, can we please factor in what has happened? Whatever has happened is very serious. There's no doubt about it.
Pakistanis obviously don't take your government seriously.
Well, I don't know. I would be surprised. I think that if you look at what has happened in the past 10 years to say that Pakistan doesn't take our government seriously, I would disagree. I think there are many elements of their conduct towards us that indicate that they take us seriously.
Why are we so eager to give them a certificate? At the SAARC summit, for example, in the Maldives, the Prime Minister of India described Yusufzai Gilani as a man of peace who could help write a new chapter in the history of our relationship. That was 4 months after the serial blast in Mumbai. Why was the Prime Minister of India giving him a certificate?
The Prime Minister of India should have offered him a sanction, should have offered him an indictment, should have offered him a rude affront. No. Should the Prime Minister have done that? This is how world diplomacy works. Please tell me the Japanese and the Americans and the Chinese and the Americans and the Iraqis and the Iranians and the Saudis and the Egyptians. You know, people have had differences, but they've always talked. And where is an alternative to talking? Please tell me.
You seem to be bound to talking. I mean, the Sharm el-Sheikh, I can give you example. The Sharm el-Sheikh happened, you name Balochistan, this is our 9 months after 26/11, and you are talking about not talking. Mr. Khurshid, in the case of Snowden, for example, you know, in the case of Snowden, were there the talks? Snowden was a big enough issue for the United States of America. They displayed gumption. They displayed some spine. They said that when we feel that our national interests are being violated, it is purposeless to have talks at a certain level.
Well, can I give a counter example?
You can keep giving, I'm talking about India, Pakistan.
No. You used the United States as an example. United States went out of its way, an extra mile, to talk to the Taliban. And they talked to Taliban when attacks were taking place in Afghanistan. But I am not saying that the United States are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. It's their perception of what is necessary for them to resolve a situation that they believe they have some responsibility towards, which is to bring lasting, sustainable peace in Afghanistan, where they have made enormous sacrifices. Now, we can't compare ourselves with the United States of America, but we know what we need to do. And I am not... Every time I say that we know what we need to do, and every time we say that let us not slam the door shut today, but we are not talking today, give us the time to think about what is the right thing to do.
It seems that your government's policy, Mr. Khurshid, is that of constantly appeasing Pakistan, and
That's a view you can have. I believe that we are responsible. I think we've been applauded in the world for being responsible. I think that we are practical, we are pragmatic.
Why do you feel you need to be applauded in the world for being responsible for talking? Are these talks for the global arena? Are these talks photo ops for the world?
Talks are not for the world.
Is there global pressure?
Talks are not for the world, but you live in a world community. And when you live in a world community, you refer to the standards that the world applies, and we contribute to those standards. And the standards that the world applies is that you don't use threat, that you don't use unwholesome language, that you use the best instruments of diplomacy to achieve your national interest.
So, Mr. Khurshid, you are indirectly agreeing that there is some international pressure on your government to keep up the talks with Pakistan.
Not at all. There's pressure India has on the international community.
That's an obligation you're putting under yourself.
We have put pressure on the international community.
So you are saying it would be irresponsible to move away from the talks for a while?
We have turned the world community against the positions that they took. When I was a Minister of State, I know what I had to do when I went with Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee to Geneva to argue a cause of India, which at that time seemed like a defeated cause. And from them to now, today, the world stands with us.
But Mr. Khurshid, flatly, the question is this. Are you also not responsible to the people of this country and to what you promised them after the beheadings in January?
Yeah.
Because, Mr. Khurshid, your Prime Minister said that, and I quote, cannot be business as usual.
Yes, with whom?
With Pakistan.
With the government that's been defeated in Pakistan. There was a new government. There's a new government in Pakistan, a new government that had a stated policy when it was campaigning to get into power. It had a stated policy
which they did not live up to.
Of course, we now need to examine.
So why would the Foreign Minister of India want to go by the party manifestos or the campaigns of a political party in Pakistan?
Foreign Minister is going by the ground reality today, which is why Foreign Minister is talking to Arnab and not to a Pakistani counterpart.
No. You yourself said, and I remember, Mr. Khurshid, we may go beyond procedure.
Procedure of what?
I'm asking you.
Go beyond what procedure?
This was your response after the beheadings?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that you understand the context in which it was said. I don't think that's important. What was important was what the Prime Minister said.
Well, you said this was absolutely unacceptable and inhuman, the killing of Indian soldiers by slitting their throats. This is inhuman.
Are you questioning that?
This is extremely myopic. No, I'm quoting you. It is short-sighted. It is not something of light nature. Public opinion does not accept it. We want a proportionate response to this now. We may have to go beyond the procedures. We need answers from the Pakistani side. We may have to go beyond the procedures. Mr. Salman Khurshid, one question therefore which emerges is this. Mr. Khurshid, frankly tell me, are you doing anger management? As in when something happens, you feel there's an outburst and people are angry, you make a tough statement at that point of time without making a long-term commitment, and then when time subsides.
What is that?
Which is your Prime Minister, what he said, that it cannot be business as usual.
What our Prime Minister said, we complied. What our Prime Minister said was implemented. We did reverse the cycle of movement forward that had happened.
Which cycle?
There was confidence building measures, there was visas, there was a new visa regime. Everything was put on hold. There was people-to-people contact that was put on hold. We did nothing for that government.
How many weeks?
It doesn't matter how many weeks did that government last.
That means you're doing anger management.
No, I'm not doing anger management. I'm doing sensible, representative public politics. Public display of anger is not something that we can replicate. We can learn from it. We can take it on board. We can try to address it. We can respond to it. But we can't become angry ourselves.
But why are you compromising your national self-interest in the process?
National interest has never been compromised. I am sorry. Who is to judge the national interest? Well, it is the elected government of India that will judge the national interest.
Not necessarily, Mr. Khurshid. The people of this country have a right to judge national interest.
People of this country are more in touch with us than they are with you. Sorry. I have to say it. No. We've got to get the bottom line.
Yes, sure.
We're not prepared to accept that the people of this country are not in touch with us. People in our country are in touch with us. Of course, political parties come to power, political parties go out of power. But even when they go out of power, there are some people who are in touch with them. So you can't say...
So are you saying that the people of this country, Mr. Khurshid, You represent the people of this country and we don't. The media doesn't.
Absolutely.
Are you saying?
No,
I take that as a given. I'm not contesting it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're elected, I'm not.
Thank you very much.
You're elected, I'm not.
Thank you very much.
But since you're elected, your responsibility is greater.
Absolutely.
And therefore the question is, are you saying the people of this country want to see Manmohan Singh, despite everything which has happened, and despite his promise to the people of this country, who elected him, that it would not be business as usual, that he goes around clinking glasses with Nawaz Sharif in New York, and the people of this country will say, well, Manmohan Singh said it would not be business as usual for 2 or 3 months. Do you think the people of this country want that to happen, Mr. Khurshid?
What the people of this country want is something that will be reflected in what we do. And when we do it,
what will you do?
We will share it with you.
What will you do?
Not going to share it with you in advance, but when we do it, we will share it with you, because we do also accept that you have a responsibility in this country, that you have a representative capacity in this country. But of course, we think ours is much more than yours, which is why I'm not placing a heavy responsibility.
So tell me, Mr. Khurshid, say it clearly to me. You are talking at the prime ministerial level. You must be clear, because there are, you are the foreign minister of India.
Absolutely.
Right? You must tell us, you must tell us, Mr. Khurshid, whether talks at the prime ministerial level will or will not happen. There is no point, Mr. Khurshid, avoiding this question anymore. There needs to be great clarity on this subject in the given situation.
You will get clarity, but I do believe that it's important for us today not to take a call, and certainly not take a call in public on issues that we are still factoring in, and our final decision is still to be taken. When that final decision gets taken, and you know that it will get taken at the level of the head of our government, the Prime Minister, we will share it with you. I hope and I wish that this being available to you, you would also help me analyze.
You must be clearer.
I am clear.
You must tell us what can...
I'm clear. I'm not even telling you that I am talking. Forget about the Prime Minister. I'm not even telling you that I am prepared to talk. So why should I say anything about the Prime Minister?
Are you prepared to talk, Mr. Khurshid?
I'm saying I'm not even telling you that. I'm not even telling you that I am talking about talks today.
In the given situation, what is the situation about the talks, Mr. Khurshid? In the given situation today, where even in the last 24 hours, there have been 2 violations along the LOC and firing has still continued, Mr. Khurshid, at least you can be clear enough with me that if this situation continues, then is this an atmosphere for talks to happen in?
For me to say that this is not the atmosphere is not rocket science. You know that unless the atmosphere is conducive, unless our concerns get addressed, unless we factor in that our national interest demands that we should now move forward, obviously we will take a decision which is contrary to what you are hoping.
But I'm specific, Mr. Khurshid, so that the people who are watching this get a sense of how you are thinking. So the question to you is, what makes a conducive or a non-conducive atmosphere?
A lot of things.
Am I to understand correctly that you're saying there should be no infiltration attempts? There should be no pushing of terrorists from across the border? There should be no provocation from the Pakistani side, and if there's a single provocation from the Pakistani side, then you do not consider it worthwhile to talk at a high political level.
Let's not talk about single and double and multiple, but whatever you are saying, the terms and references that you believe are relevant to a decision of this nature, I think are correct. They are. But there is more to this. There is also something of delivery on what happened in Mumbai. There's accountability that's called for. Accountability for Mumbai is called for. Of course, we need to see delivery. We need to see dismantling of the infrastructure of terrorism. All these things are not going to be given a go by our government. I can assure you, in the national interest, all this will remain relevant to the dying day for
You're saying that, Mr. Khurshid, the reports are that your government has taken 2611 off the agenda for the proposed talks in New York.
I don't know where you get these reports. These are not, the Foreign Minister of India doesn't know that there is any such report. May I just urge you to be sure that the sources that give you this information are sources that are not pushing a personal agenda for destroying a relationship between India and its neighbors? Is it possible that there are people who want this? Answer is yes. There are people who want to destroy our relationship with our neighbors.
You were
but
saying,
we are not going to let them.
You were saying something that's the context in which I asked you.
Yeah.
In response to a very specific question about the circumstances and the conditions which lay the ground for talks, you said, Mr. Khurshid, to me just a while back, that 2611 and delivery on 2611 is one of the most important issues. I want you to be more specific on that. Because Hafiz Saeed is going around, and you have seen the most acidic, vitriolic, unacceptable speeches from him in which he calls for jihad localized and spread across the entire country. I want you to be specific on Hafiz Saeed.
I'm saying to you this is unacceptable. I'm saying to you that even when Pakistan says that we need evidence, there is evidence of the nature that they cannot today refute. There's evidence that's been produced and accepted by their own courts. That evidence at least must deliver, if not the entire delivery that we want today, at least deliver a substantial amount of that. There has to be delivery of accountability. We want that delivery, we must get that delivery. But to say that, oh, but this doesn't include X and this doesn't include Y, we will come to X and Y as well.
The core person is Hafiz Saeed, isn't it?
Who?
The critical issue is Hafiz Saeed, or are you talking about something else?
Hafiz Saeed is a core person, but we've given enough evidence at least to get such associates of Hafiz Saeed as are today being tried in Pakistan. At least let's have delivery on that.
Delivery isn't? Deliver them to India.
Deliver them to India or try them and punish them. It's very clear. We've been saying this all along. Let's have delivery there. This is not something that is going to be bypassed. Now let me tell you something. We did have, after the new government came to power, we had several occasions where we spoke to people who were responsible persons on the Pakistani side, special envoy, people who were representing the government on foreign policy. And this is the point we made to them repeatedly. And I can tell you this with all honesty, that not once did anyone hedge, not once did anyone say that this is not something we'll be able to do. And the most important statement that I believe that was made at that time to us was that the Prime Minister of Pakistan will insist that everybody in Pakistan involved in administration, government or any other agency remains on the same page as him. Now, this is a statement which was made to me. This is a statement I believe would have been repeated to other leaders as well. This is a statement that we did accept at face value. But today, when we compare the statement with what has happened, I can't say to you that I have 100% faith that statement will hold good. But we have to see. There was that statement. There is a counterproductive action that has happened in recent weeks. We need to put everything together. We need to look at the balance sheet and then finally decide whether the balance sheet remains in the positive or the negative.
Mr. Khurshid, don't mind my saying, I think you're taking the easier option. I'll tell you why. I've listened to everything you've said extensively, and I think you're making a good and solid point. What I hear you say...
That's more than you've said to anybody else in recent weeks, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Khurshid.
That's only because I've offered to come on your program and present myself.
Which I think is very good. Which I think is excellent. I appreciate it as well.
I'm happy to do an every evening program with you. I have no problem at all.
One of us will get a migraine. But our question here is this, Mr. Khurshid. I hear you say that if not Hafiz Saeed, now tell me if I understand, if not Hafiz Saeed, then the other associates, people whose names have appeared in 2611 in the trial, there must be some movement on the cases against them.
If not Hafiz Saeed now,
if not Hafiz Saeed now,
in future again, Hafiz Saeed also is to be accountable. But if they say there's not enough evidence that our courts can accept, there is evidence that their courts are accepting. So let's move on that front.
With the others.
Yeah.
Right? Now, question here is, why I feel, pardon my saying so, that you're taking the easier option out is A, because you're letting Hafiz Saeed off the hook. And
Not?
What is your position on Hafiz Saeed?
No.
On the speeches of Hafiz Saeed? You didn't answer that.
Our position, it's not the speeches of Hafiz Saeed. It's the evidence we have on Hafiz Saeed. We've given that evidence.
But they've not accepted the evidence.
Well,
they've called it fiction.
According to them, their courts haven't accepted it. Let's see. So we said, fine. If the courts haven't accepted it, let us look at the evidence that the courts are accepting. At least there you can deliver. The point is that the delivery must begin.
At a very, I would say at a very, at a very tertiary, initial, nascent stage of the legal process, there may be some delivery. And that, however, in the absence of getting Hafiz Saeed to stop making those kind of comments which he has, and the fact that he's a free man, making those speeches and openly inflaming passions in Pakistan is not good enough, Mr. Khurshid. And you asked me, that's point number one.
I didn't say it was good enough. I didn't say it's good.
It seems good enough for your prime ministers to meet. You're making that.
I'm not. Again, you bring me back to the prime ministers to meet.
Yes.
I am not making an announcement. I am not even disclosing to you what stage of our analysis has reached. All I am saying is that every objective factor that should go in the larger national interest is what will dictate the Prime Minister's decision.
You are basically looking, Mr. Khurshid, for something positive to come out of Pakistan, which may prove to be a basic justification for the Prime Minister of India to continue meeting Nawaz Sharif in New York. And the question is this, you said to me, who's your source? Who told you that 2611 is a precondition? You have read the Hindustan Times report where Sartaj Aziz has gone on record August 6th to say that India was not going to keep the talks conditional on Pakistan's 2611
This is a report that somebody makes of a conversation they had with Sartaj Aziz. But I can tell you,
Sartaj Aziz denied the conversation?
I can tell you as India's foreign minister that my conversations with him have been entirely different. Now, would you accept a stray report in the Hindustan Times or any other paper, or what the India's foreign minister is telling you?
I would accept what very informed sources in the Pakistan's Prime Minister's office, not just the advisor on security and national affairs, have told the Times Now team as well, and that is exactly this, that there is no precondition on 2611.
No, I am sorry. There is this issue of preconditions and non-conditions. Let's not get lost in words. Very categorically and very authoritatively, I am telling you this, that this is a major issue. When and if we talk to Pakistan at any level, this is a major issue. This issue will have to be addressed by Pakistan. It's been there all along. It will be there, and it will be there till we get satisfaction.
What is satisfaction? Hafiz Saeed.
Satisfaction.
Getting Hafiz Saeed to justice.
Today's delivery. I am saying begin delivery. I'm not even saying complete delivery today. I am saying begin delivery. We will then judge whether there is substantial delivery, whether it's quick enough, it's coming in the right direction, and perhaps then we can see what more we can do.
You're working in a calibrated manner. Why is it so important, Mr. Salman Khurshid? You know, since 2611, there have been a series of meetings with Pakistan. Has there been any substantial outcome out of any of these talks? And am I right in assessing that your government begins to believe that whatever before the next general elections, before the 2-month, 3-month period before general election where the focus is only on politics, say February, now we're August. Am I right in assessing that your government and your Prime Minister feels there are only 6 months more in which you can do something historic? And this has been written about all the time. The Prime Minister hopes to make history with Pakistan. But a personal...
We hope to make history by coming back to power for the third time, the UPA 3. But obviously something you may not endorse right away. Perhaps you'll take a little bit longer to endorse it. But anyway...
I wouldn't endorse any political party in any way.
Well, you should. For something that's good for the country, you should.
That's your assessment.
If it's not good for the country, I'll come back and talk to you again and see why you think it's not good for the country.
I'm not here to take
I will come back.
On that. Let's go to the subject.
You take position on everything else. Why can't you take position on this?
My question is...
It's only an attempt to persuade you to do the right thing for this country. Anyhow, don't do it, doesn't matter. Important thing is that international relations with your neighbors, relations with Pakistan, when will they become in the public domain something significant and important, be it election time or non-election time? It's difficult to predict. But whenever they are important, we must address them. Whenever they impinge upon domestic and international politics, we must address them.
Why don't you display the kind of steel and spine
that
and you won't like this as well, that Pakistan displayed when its soldiers were killed in accidental killing by NATO forces? And Mr. Khurshid, let me explain this, for all our viewers who may not be aware of what had happened at that time. Pakistan immediately blocked NATO routes in Pakistan as forcing an expression of regret from America. Once after the beheading of the Indian soldiers, on the contrary, your Prime Minister said, after this dastardly act, there can't be business as usual with Pakistan. Then you immediately go and you roll the red carpet. You have that lavish lunch with the Pakistani Prime Minister, even after the Hyderabad blast. So, Mr. Khurshid, why don't you look at how Pakistan itself responded to the United States and the NATO after it happened
these
there?
Are very difficult. These are very difficult questions.
No, these are very...
No.
The comparison is direct.
I know that there's no direct comparison. I don't think that we should compare ourselves with what happened between Pakistan and the US. I think there are, if you were to talk to Pakistanis, they will have a lot more to say to you than you are reporting today. But let me just put this down.
Can I just quote what the Pakistan Foreign Minister said? Sorry to interrupt.
Please do.
They said this, and this is the language that people would like India to speak vis-a-vis Pakistan. They said enough is enough. This is a response to America and NATO. The government of Pakistan will not tolerate any incident of spilling even a single drop of any civilian or soldier's blood. That is it.
And then
we will not compromise on our sovereignty.
Of course. And then what? And then the drone attacks continued.
So you're saying that you're saying that being tough with Pakistan will not be...
No, I'm not saying...
I'm not
saying that. I'm saying that we have to be sensible in handling Pakistan. And sensible means keeping India's national interest as paramount. Now, what India's national interest is not always going to be explicitly available on the channels.
Right.
There are things that we have to do in confidence. There are things that we have to do within the confines of government. There are things that we have to do in engagement with our own armed forces, which we cannot disclose in advance for obvious security reasons. But we will. If and when the need comes and we complete an operation, we will let the world know. But when is an operation of a civilian nature? When is it of a diplomatic nature? When is it of a military nature? These are decisions that we have to take. Nobody is going to force us to take these decisions. No matter how much they claim to be advocating national interest, we are not prepared to accept that we know less of the national interest than anybody else.
You've said this a second time here.
I've said it 100 times.
I'd say
because
it to you also. Is it in the national interest, Mr. Salman Khurshid, to be giving an escape route to Pakistan like you did in this whole controversy over the press releases, when you made 3 statements from Jammu and one statement from Jammu and 2 from Delhi? Is it in the national interest, Mr. Salman Khurshid, to give an escape route to Pakistan? An opportunity for Pakistan to forever quote that we gave them the alibi. Because what happened last week, Mr. Khurshid, was...
You gave.
I gave.
Look at what the resolution
Your government
says.
gave.
Sorry.
Your government
Look at what the resolution says. It talks about the media. The opposition.
Whose
and
resolution?
the media. Resolution of Pakistan.
What do you expect them to say about the Indian media?
You're talking about them. They having been given an escape route. That escape route has come because you have suggested something that should not have been suggested at all.
Which is what?
If an attack comes on an Indian civilian or an Indian armed forces personnel, if an attack comes from across the LOC, it doesn't matter it comes in uniform or it comes in civilian clothes. It is an attack that we accept must not have happened without the connivance of the Pakistani government. Now, if you are explicitly not unable to understand what we are saying, you can't tell Pakistan that you've been let off by this government and run down your own government when you should be telling Pakistan that we stand by our government.
So if your government was right in saying that the people who came in from Pakistan were not Pakistan army personnel, without doubt. You didn't say that, but I'm saying without doubt, but they were individuals dressed in Pakistan army uniform. Let me ask you, Mr. Khurshid, would you ever expect any government in Pakistan ever, if Indians were to attack, on the Pakistani side and go 450 kilometers on Pakistani soil, do you expect the Pakistani 450 meters into Pakistani soil, do you expect any Pakistani government or defense minister to stand in their assembly and say there were people who were dressed in Indian army uniforms?
But at that point of time,
would you expect them to say that?
May I just say this to you?
Yes, please.
You first tell us to behave like Americans, then you tell us to behave like Pakistanis, then you tell us to behave like somebody else. We will behave like Indians.
We will want you to be firm.
And we were firm, and we are firm today.
Not in that episode.
We are firm today. We were firm in that episode as well. If any discrepancies happened of reporting from the field and between headquarters, that discrepancy is unfortunate. But there was not for a moment, an escape route given to Pakistan.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, everybody jumping to score points created that escape route.
Who's everybody? I want you to be very clear about it.
No, it's there. It's the opposition and you, the media. All you had to do was to ask us, please trust the Indian Defence Minister. When the Indian Defence Minister speaks, a man of tremendous sagacity, tremendous honesty, tremendous respect in this country, when he speaks, give him a moment of trust.
Then in that case, Mr. Khurshid, and there is not one question on the personal integrity, sagacity, competence or honesty of Mr. A.K. Antony. There's no comment on a personal level on him. At that point of time, when the leader of the opposition stood in the floor of the House and gave the leeway to Mr. Antony to suggest that it could have been a typographical error, in other words, in other words, suggesting that, this may not be in national interest, why don't you just say it is a typographical error and correct it? Why did the Congress party and the government not say that, yes, it may not be the right way of phrasing it. Let us not phrase it in a manner that gives Pakistan the edge. And Mr. Khurshid, 1 minute, I must reply because you put the ball in the media's court here.
Yeah.
What happened with the press releases, in the aftermath of the ceasefire violation was without doubt a completely avoidable controversy. This is the way most people are reading it. We had 3 statements in 2 days. Clearly, we were a divided house in our stand on Pakistan's direct involvement. And Mr. Khurshid, you too contradicted yourself. You first claimed Antony's remarks were consistent, then said there was an error made in the first letter that was rectified, only for a third letter to confirm what the first letter had said. Amidst all the confusion, we lost the opportunity, 3 more words, of putting the pressure on Pakistan.
Please understand, I think we put the pressure on Pakistan. But if you want to honestly accept what happened, please accept it. But if you insist that there were contradictions, if you insist that there were inaccuracies, then there is nothing I can do. Very simple. Please understand, very simple. There was an FIR filed. That FIR did not say that there were army people involved. It thought, I believe, on the basis of prima facie evidence, that there were only terrorists involved. It moved forward. And a press release said there were people who were army regulars.
No, it said Pakistan Border Action Team.
Whatever, army regulars or Pakistan Action Team, etc. Further reflection, this is all done at the regional level. This is all done at the Jammu level. This is long before the defense minister comes into the picture. Then, on further reflection, they were not sure that what they had said was absolutely correct. So they said, certainly there were people in uniform. Others were dressed in civilian clothes. Yeah. But it's difficult at that stage to reconfirm. Mr. Antony made his statement at that stage. But Mr. Antony was still hoping more information would be available.
But why was he giving an alibi in the interim?
He was not giving an alibi. I believe that was not an alibi.
Why were all references to the Pakistan Army? And I've asked you this before, but I repeat it. All reference to Pakistan Army, Pakistan government, Pakistan Army regulars removed.
It was not necessary at that point.
Why was it?
He was still checking. And please understand, I was sitting next to him. Now, you all want to believe it, don't believe it. I was sitting next to him. He made a special effort to go across to the gallery, check with the army again. And he came back and said, haven't been able to confirm even yet, but I have to complete my statement. He told all of us that he would ask the army chief to go and make a personal check on what had happened. The army chief went, he collected more information, came back and he briefed him. Next day, a more complete statement was made. Where is the contradiction? You're saying that there is no evolving situation.
There is a clear contradiction in this, but I don't want to go on about it.
I am sorry.
The contradiction is...
I'm saying
the contradiction... No. See, I'll tell you. I'll put it in a historical context now, Mr. Khurshid, for you. The contradiction is this, that do you believe that given its pathetic track record as being a state sponsor of terrorism, having killed Indians on Indian soil, and carried out repeated infiltrations, having violated the atmosphere and the basis of the ceasefire, that Pakistan deserves this leg room? So
I don't think we gave them any leg room.
Well, many people believe they have.
Well,
you gave them leg room.
People believe, but they're not.
Most people believe.
Sorry, but...
And if you didn't believe the people believe, why did you go back?
No, we didn't go back. We didn't go back. We don't stand on ego. We said this is the information we have today. If we have more information, we'll come back to you. And next day we had more information, we came back to them. We may have even more information now. We will go back a third time. Now, you can't say that when something happens, we want 100% correct, authentic report, a verified report there and then within 15 minutes. You can't do that.
No, you don't have to respond like that, Mr. Khurshid. But on this whole issue of escape route, now I'll put it in the historical perspective, and my next question to you is this.
I've explained to you that there was no escape route here.
Actually, I've heard you.
Whether you accept or you don't, that's your choice.
I've heard you there. I've heard you there.
I
cannot force my opinion on the Foreign Minister of India.
Absolutely, nor can I on you. Yes. But we are having a discussion so that people are able to judge better as to who's saying the right thing.
Absolutely. Mr. Khurshid, the question here is this, that instead of being firm with Pakistan, the accusation against your government, many people believe, is that you have always given them an escape route. You see, Manmohan Singh, 2006 said, I'll give you some examples. India too is a victim of terror, right? Then you included Balochistan. Pakistan too, like India, is a victim of terror. Then you had this Balochistan reference 6 months after 9/11. But the most startling one was by your predecessor, Mr. S.M. Krishna, which I personally found quite shocking. You had G.K. Pillai, who said that the interrogation of Headley proved Pakistan's ISI was involved in 26/11 from beginning to end on the attack on Mumbai. And S.M. Krishna disapproved of these comments, said that his entire visit to Islamabad was underpinned by the remarks, the timing of which were very unfortunate. Now, why would any foreign minister do that? One, when your Home Secretary is telling the truth, why would the foreign minister embarrass his Home Secretary, contradict the government's own position on 26/11, dilute the pressure on 26/11, and why was the Prime Minister silent in that period? Why did the Prime Minister not step forward and defend the Home Secretary?
See,
why?
Now there are many issues here. This is not a free-for-all government.
What do you mean by free-for-all?
Yeah, I'm telling you what. It's not free-for-all government. What the
Home Secretary can't speak the truth?
Home Secretary is not supposed to speak when the ministers are supposed to speak. The purpose of a divide between political responsibility and a bureaucratic responsibility is this, that the final statement must come from the political head, and the political head must roll if they get it wrong. We are not supposed to blame the
political head got it wrong in this case.
No. It was not. It was the Home Minister who should have spoken. But be that as it may, the Home Secretary, whatever the Home Secretary said was correct. I will say it now that it was correct. We have seen subsequently proof of what he said, a proof that what he said was correct. But there must have been a decision taken at that time for the Foreign Minister to visit Pakistan. A decision taken. There are things that you say. There are things that you say one-on-one. There are things that you say in public. You know that in diplomacy.
But Mr. Khurshid, I understand. You always take the argument of diplomacy, and I understand that new diplomacy has nuances.
A foreign minister must take an argument of diplomacy.
But I must at the same time ask you this question. That I think it was unfortunate. I'm going to press on this point. I think it was unfortunate that Qureshi, the then Foreign Minister of Pakistan, said that look at what your Home Secretary has said, and he said that dialogue was reported in all Pakistan papers. What extent has it helped? And immediately your Foreign Minister said what your Home Secretary said, which is the truth about 26/11, was very unfortunate. It is also no, one second.
He didn't say it was wrong.
He is saying it is unfortunate, and he has also said it was his visit was underpinned by it,
which proves
which proves my basic contention.
Yeah,
that you want to do a certain kind of diplomacy with Pakistan by playing down the facts.
No.
Whereas the Pakistanis, the same Mr. Qureshi said the following. He said, I have brought India to its knees. This is what Qureshi said, and I'd like to quote Qureshi. He said,
and nobody contradicted that?
Well, nobody contradicted that.
Because
nobody contradicted that. He said that Pakistan's tough posturing had brought India down on its knees. Nobody contradicted that. But your Foreign Minister contradicted your Home Secretary.
You think this is true?
Which is true?
You think this is true, what Mr. Qureshi said? You think this is true?
Well, this has been quoted.
Please learn to sift between what is something that is of good sense and of use in a conversation like the one that we are having, and what is really chaff that should be separated.
Mr. Khurshid, the simple point I'm making to you is this, that the Pakistanis have been extremely muscular and aggressive in their approach vis-a-vis India, whereas we have been extremely soft. And that is really the real point of this conversation.
I think
why are we doing that?
Screaming doesn't make you tough. Being abusive and cursing somebody doesn't make you tough. I think you've got to delve a little bit deeper into how we function, and you will know how tough we've been. We have been tough. We don't want to proclaim to the world and proclaim to your viewers that we've been tough. We know what our job is. It is a tough job, and we will remain tough. And I think the fact that we do not proclaim it from the treetops and from the rooftops doesn't mean that we are not tough. I don't want to be compared to anybody from the Pakistani side. I would be terribly, terribly distressed if you gave me the impression that you prefer politicians on the Pakistani side to politicians in your own country. I would be extremely distressed, but then again, it is your choice.
Mr. Khurshid, it would be very distressing for the people watching this to get a sense that despite all the facts which have emerged in the last few months and years vis-a-vis Pakistan, despite the many meetings which you've had with them which have achieved absolutely nothing, that without anything very specific or concrete, the approach towards Pakistan would not change. And I'm not screaming, and I'm telling you that in a very clear tone. Why do you think?
Tell me in a clear
and you see, there is a strategic perspective to this.
Sure,
Mr. Khurshid, that the general view is that after the American withdrawal in 2014, there will be an increased the theatre for Pakistan and for all the terrorists in Pakistan, which you are fully aware of in your capacity, is likely to shift towards India, right? Now, in this situation, I would have assumed...
That's a very strange thesis.
Allow me to complete.
Yeah.
I would have assumed that there would have been a greater sense of urgency at this point of time for India to be very rigid with Pakistan so that we force them to pull back on, more importantly than one, the infiltration, pushing terrorists across to India, and thirdly, acting against those who are creating terror groups and expanding them within Pakistan. If we lose the opportunity now, Mr. Khurshid, if we let the next few months fail, the worry is the situation in 2014 will get much worse. And this is the assessment, Mr. Khurshid, from many people within your own government. Well, why would you let that situation happen?
Maybe the assessment has nothing to do with what we are doing vis-a-vis terrorism in Pakistan. I can assure you, globally, India today has got a profile to lead a campaign against terrorism globally, and this was not the case 20 years ago. And it's entirely because of the persuasive manner in which we've been able to convince the people of the world that terrorism finds a safe haven in Pakistan. And we've suffered this for several decades. It's only the world is discovering it now. But having said this, and having said that we will be as vigilant and as tough and as determined as anyone can be, I believe that one shouldn't be influenced by all kinds of theories about what will happen in Afghanistan. I mean, I can put a plausible theory that goes against the theory that...
Well, I think most people across agree, and there's a worry that your government would have that after the American withdrawal from the region, there is a great concern as far as India. Why would you not want to play hardball, Mr. Khurshid? My point is this. Please give me
hardball.
Why wouldn't you want to play hardball with Pakistan and, for example, tell them very clearly, since you ask what is hardball, why would you not tell them that unless you act on Hafiz's side, not some minions of his, unless you deliver justice for 2611 in its entirety, and unless there is not a single act of cross-border infiltration, we will not talk to you? Because that approach, well, I'm not saying not talking is also an option. Why would you not look at that option?
No, why will we not look at that option? Who said we will not look at that option?
You will look at that option.
Why are you assuming that we will not look at that option?
Will you look at that option?
Why were you assuming that we will not look at that option? All options.
Because you've not suggested.
No. Because what you want is an answer today, and I'm saying the answer will come when it should come. It's not going to come today. But nobody is ruling out any option at all. Nobody is ruling out option. Nobody is ruling out
specific, Mr. Khurshid.
No, of course, it's not my job to be specific.
Why not?
It's my job to keep you guessing. It's your job to be specific. It's not my job to be specific.
I think that's a very sorry statement. I think the
It's
people
not a
of
sorry
India would
statement.
want you to be as
People of
specific
India,
as possible.
this is it. People of India, when I meet people of India, I'm specific with them because I speak the language.
They're watching you now.
No, of course they're watching me, but not all of them. There are a lot of them who don't watch you.
So whoever's watching today would want you to be specific on the talks.
Yeah, I know.
One last time on the talks with Pakistan.
And they would also know that we have a good foreign minister who can't be driven into taking positions that may not well be mature positions at this time. As and when the positions mature, he will give them to us. And of course, I make an open offer. Then as we mature our position and the time comes for us to make declarations that would excite the people who watch you, I will be very happy to share that with you first of all, and not with anybody else.
In the interim, the Prime Minister will meet Nawaz Sharif on the 24th of September?
Because you
said when and if. No, you said when and if.
Yeah.
There were two comments in your observation. You said when and if.
We decide.
So when and if, you said. So the when is known. The date is the 24th of September.
Yeah.
And the if is whether the Prime Minister will meet Nawaz Sharif. So allow me to complete.
Shall we just wait for the if then?
No, it's about the when. Will that meeting happen in the present circumstance?
Shall we wait for the if then?
Do you feel?
I think we started this conversation with an if. After half an hour, you've still brought me back to the if, and I'm not going to budge from the if. On that if depends a great deal for India's future. On that if depends a great deal for this region's future.
What if?
The if of the meeting.
The if of the meeting.
Yeah.
So if the Prime Minister of India does not meet Nawaz Sharif, the future of this region will be compromised. Is that what you said?
I don't know. I didn't say the word compromise.
What did you say?
I said
you
the
said
future depends.
On that if.
The future depends.
You
and
said,
when
you said on that if.
On
depends,
the if.
You
the
said
future
on
depends.
that if
Yeah.
depends the future of the region. How?
It could be in one way that is good for us. It could be in one way that is not so good for us. And obviously, we'll opt for the path that is good for us and for the region.
Mr. Khurshid, I let that pass because I think you're not giving a very clear answer on that. The worry is, Mr. Khurshid, that the broader point is this: we talk a language that sometimes gives the impression that we are not firm in our approach, and this charge has been made in the context of.
Look at how firm I have been with you. I haven't given you an answer. You've tried to cast that question in many different forms.
Mr. Khurshid,
but I haven't given you an answer.
No, Mr. Khurshid, not giving an answer is your right.
It's firmness.
Asking a question is my responsibility. Right. So let's agree on that. In the context of China, I have a couple of questions for you. Why did you make all those comments which made it appear that you were being extremely soft at a time when there was a lot of anger in the country about the intrusions from China? And let me give you those examples. There were three which I want you to ask about. You said you took comfort in the fact that the word incursion was being used. You said incursion can be a joyride, intrusion is aggressive.
I was being facetious at your inability of the media to distinguish between an incursion and excursion.
The context question was of an incursion, not about an excursion.
Yeah, intrusion and incursion are two different things.
No, so why did you say incursion can be a joyride, intrusion can be aggressive?
I thought you should have used the word intrusion. I have a right to correct your English. You should have used the word intrusion. And I think that if you're serious about something, then you should at least use the right words.
You also said, you remember the comment about acne. Now this has been one of those extremely controversial remarks. You said it is acne which can be addressed by simply applying an ointment. Now Mr. Khurshid, I'm sure you were not being facetious there.
I was not being facetious, but I wanted people to understand that everything should not be blown out of proportion, that there are things that can be handled and there are things that would require much more than ordinary handling.
How do you think the Chinese would read that comment?
I don't know. The Chinese read it very well. They went back. They did what we wanted them to do. They behaved extremely graciously when I went to China. And I think that they gave a very good account of themselves when the Prime Minister came to our country. And I think that if we are going by the result of how we handle it, the result, I'm afraid, was different from what you.
No, you said this week, or I think yesterday or day before, you said that you need to have a voice which has strength, effectiveness, confidence, and belief. That is what you're advocating now. So my question to you is, when you describe something as acne, which can be removed with an ointment, is that speaking in a voice which has strength, effectiveness, confidence, and belief?
That is speaking with a voice that has knowledge, a voice that has faith in itself, and not a voice of someone who wants to fish in troubled waters. I think we did what we did with China with great sagacity, sensibility, and sobriety, and I think it's been appreciated across the border. They know our strength, they know our commitment, and they also know our determination. And it's all apparent in the results of how we deal with China now.
So there are two questions, Mr. Khurshid. An admission that Dawood Ibrahim has been in Pakistan. How aggressively has your government taken it up since the admission by a Pakistani official, Shahryar Khan, an advisor to the Prime Minister, last few days?
This is an area of high security, and I would rather not deal with it now. But I can assure you...
Should you not pin them down?
I can assure you that this is something that will not escape our attention, and that this is not something that we will get easily diverted from. But this is as much as I can tell you at this point.
Have you taken it up with the Pakistanis?
This is as much as I can tell you.
Why didn't you go hammer and tongs with the Pakistanis on Dawood when that point was made?
See, you've just been telling us don't talk to Pakistanis. Now you're telling us take it up with Pakistanis.
I'm telling you. You don't have to talk. No, one second.
Then, if you don't talk, how do you take it up?
No, 1 second. Why don't you aggressively take up the issue at every single level? Issue press releases on it. Why don't you make a big deal on it? Why don't you issue statements on it to put up the pressure on Pakistan?
The press releases are to be done for you, not for them. With them, you have to tell them straight, eye to eye, eyeball to eyeball. You have to tell them what you believe is wrong and what they must do.
What have you told them on a
vis-a-vis many of these things? I'm not going to give you details because they are details that relate to our security, and I'm not going to be able to share them with you till such time as we reach a point of a stage where this can be released to you.
So, Mr. Khurshid, finally, let me give you a situation here. That Hafiz Saeed has been making the most inflammatory comments in Pakistan, right? You, of course, are looking for some certain progress in the legal process vis-a-vis 2611 to justify the Prime Minister's...
Inter alia.
Yeah. Amongst other things, to justify the Prime Minister's meeting with Nawaz Sharif.
I'm not justifying at all. I'm not justifying. We're not looking for a justification. Please understand.
You can say so. There can be an interpretation that
why? How can you? If we say we're not looking for a justification, how can you interpret?
Because you almost admitted here in the course of the interview that the Prime Minister's meeting will carry on. Unaffected by what's happening.
I am sorry. Go back over your tape again. I've done nothing of that sort. Again and again I've said. And I have not said meeting will not take place. I have not said the meeting will take place. I'm only saying to you, I am not going to tell you now that the meeting will take place or not take place.
After 2611 happened, there was a period when we did not talk to Pakistan. And the critical issue, Mr. Salman Khurshid, it's fairly simple, not complicated. We don't have to be too nuanced about it. The only critical issue there was action on 2611, right? And as far as this entire country is concerned, Mr. Khurshid, action on 2611 amounts to action on Hafiz Saeed. And today,
amongst other things. I'm sorry. There is a range of people involved, and I think we are getting satisfaction somewhere.
Because
a little satisfaction.
Wasn't Hafiz Saeed the mastermind, Mr. Khurshid?
No, nothing near what we want. But the satisfaction appeared to be coming, and we are saying, can you please move further?
All the statements of the government of India at that point of time, Mr. Khurshid, was simply this action against the masterminds of 2611. And the mastermind of 2611, as per your own government's policy, was Hafiz Saeed. So my last question to you is only this.
Yeah.
Only this. If Hafiz Saeed continues unchecked and continues to make the comments that he has and be allowed a free leash by the Pakistan army or the government, is it not absolutely the wrong situation for prime ministerial talks at any level, anywhere in the world? And when you do so, are you not sending out a message that we are willing to let you off the hook?
Well, you want a double? You ask me a double negative and you trap me. That's not going to be an answer.
Trapping. I ask you a very straight question.
Very simple.
I think you agree with what I say.
I agree with everything you say except for the conclusions. And the conclusion is that I am not telling you today, and I'm not in a position to tell you today, that we've done enough analysis to come to a conclusion as to what should be done. And of course, once we come to that conclusion, we place it before the Prime Minister. he will, of course, rely upon his own instincts and his own experience, and he will take a call. And I've said to you that you will be amongst the first few people to know, because I will come back very happily to tell you, this was my analysis and this is what we have done. Not going to escape then, and I'm not escaping now. But I'm not going to be pushed one way or the other, no matter how clever you are, to give you a commitment of yes or a commitment of no.
Salman Khurshid, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
much.